Yeah, well, first of all, I want to thank Tom and Steve for doing the stream. I don't know how many SMPTE sections are live streaming, but not a lot. And we've now been streaming every meeting live. And as I think I mentioned last month, the month before when we were at LiveU, we had a decent turnout, and we had as many people streaming as we did in the room. So that was good. And last month, Steve, do you remember what the number was for last month?
Live now. I sent the
Yeah, I don't. 94 people streaming the.
Wow. No, plus archive users.
Okay, so we're getting people that are doing this, and this is great because I was actually in touch with one of the managers from the New York section. They have a great meeting next Wednesday, by the way. If anybody wants to take the trip to New York, I wish I could, and I'm not going to be able to, but forget exactly what it is, but it's about HDR. It's Mark Shubin, John Humphreys, Larry Thorpe, and one other guy. I mean, it's a high-powered panel. It's going to be a really interesting meeting. And I said, are you going to stream it? And he goes, no, we aren't doing that yet. I said, come on. Really? So anyway, but welcome to the January meeting of the Philadelphia section. We had a little rocky start this fall, but I think we're picking it up, and I really want to thank everybody for coming up here. We're trying to make an effort to do meetings outside of the Philadelphia area at least 2 or 3 times a year, and this is why. It was a really good turnout, and a lot of, like I said, a lot of new faces and faces or people we haven't seen for a while. So a couple of things you keep eyes out for is we are looking to, in March, doing a student job fair that's coming together. It's going to be for all of our local and area universities, where we're going to be bringing in production facilities, television stations, remote companies, anybody who's doing television production, and to set up basically a big job fair, and for students to come in and find out, who do I talk to get an internship? Who do I talk to about getting a job? We're hoping to have, excuse me, Carl Kuhn from Tektronix has offered to come up if we can work out his schedule. He does a presentation for students called "What Color is My Hat?" Because a lot of these students, when they get into when they start going to school, they want to be a cameraman, they want to be a producer, they want to be a director, they want to be a writer, and they don't realize of all the other stuff that we've been doing for all these years. And so Carl does this really good presentation on what color is my hat. Just because you went to school to be a director doesn't mean you can't pull wire, terminate cables, do all the stuff that we've all done, and you never know. I always tell the story that probably one of the best directors I ever worked with was my mentor when I started at New Jersey Public Television as in the engineering department. He taught me how to run video and on the old TK-44 cameras, and then he became a director. It was Jeff Hamer. And he was good, and one of the reasons I think he was good was he understood the technical base. And so that's kind of one of the things we're trying to push with this. The other thing we're doing, and I was talking to some of you earlier, is promoting the formation of student chapters at colleges with SMPTE. SMPTE is making a big push for the same reason, is we're all getting older, and we need to recruit and bring new people into the ranks. And so, excuse me, here in Philadelphia, we have 3 active ones. We have 4 active ones. We have Millersville, Rowan, I'm drawing a blank, Newman. Is there one more? No. Okay, it is the 3. We're also talking to a couple of others about getting them started up, and so they've really been active. Especially, they've been some of our big streaming audience. So. Really, anytime we have students who come out, please welcome them and make sure that they feel welcome. If you know of a school that would be a good candidate for this, let us know. You can contact me. Sean McDonald from Newman University is heading up our student chapter initiative, and so please, you can contact him as well. Speaking of Newman University, next month's meeting is at Newman University. And tonight, our first presentation is by LiveU, and it's called Cover More for Less, the Value of Cellular Bonding, Remote At-Home Production, REMI, R-E-M-I. Something in fact, when we had our planning meeting back in August, I didn't know what REMI meant, and I've since learned. Next month at Newman, the topic of it is REMI in action, because Newman has a brand new facility, less than a year old, and it was built around that whole concept. Is they do all the switching in the control room, all of the cameras, and wherever they're doing is off-site. It's remote. So it's just like what I guess was it NBC started it many years ago with the Olympics, where they shipped the crew over to Barcelona and then they switched it in Atlanta and New York, and that's what Newman is doing. Not to that extent, but and the neat thing about this is the students are going to run the meeting. So we really welcome and invite everybody to come out and see that. So that information will be coming out soon. So let's get on, because I know George has a long drive tonight. And so I'd like to welcome George Klippel from LiveU. He's going to do our first presentation, which is about cellular bonding and at-home production, followed by Andrea Cummis, who is the CTO here at WLVT and a long, old, good friend of mine. She's been here almost a year, and they were, if you read the meeting notice, they were involved in the whole repack and are no longer have a transmitter. So they're sharing it with WFMZ, and it's made a lot of changes, and I've been here a number of times over the past year, and it's amazing how things have changed. So she's going to give us a little idea of that, and then we'll get a tour of the facility and how things have changed here. So I'm going to turn it over to George, and enjoy.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay. Well, thank you very much for having me. My name is George Klippel, Director of Channel Sales with LiveU. It's always great to come to facilities like this, television stations. It's where I got my start. My background is in television broadcasting. I got out of high school, joined the military, and served 12 years in the Marine Corps as a broadcast journalist. One of my first jobs out of the military was at WKYC in Cleveland. My background is an editor. And before coming to LiveU, I worked at Avid Technology, so you know where my alliance lies. But anyway, I'm glad to be here, and again, thank you very much for hosting, and I look forward to talking about covering more for less, the value of cellular bonding and at-home production. So before we get started and diving into the REMI piece of this, or at-home piece, I want to tell you a little bit about LiveU and what is cellular bonding for those of you who don't know. But first, just by a show of hands, does anybody here use bonded cellular today? I know you do. All right, we have a couple of people. That's great. So first off, LiveU, we're the leading manufacturer in the revolution of IP cellular transmission, right? We're delivering 4K HEVC live video streaming solutions for broadcast, sports, education, online media markets. Essentially, anywhere that you're doing streaming, we're involved in that market or vertical. We offer complete end-to-end live IP-based solutions. We have about 6,500 customers globally right now, over 3,000 end-user customers, 5.5 million annual live sessions that are producing about 220 terabytes of content every single month. Now, from a bonded cellular workflow, just to make sure everybody's on the same page of what it is, you essentially have a couple of components that make up the workflow. You have a portable unit or an uplink solution like this here in this picture. It's called a field unit. This is our backpack, the LU600. Up here in the front, I have one of our new units, the LU300. This is a small, easy clip-on unit that has a couple of modems, so it's similar to this backpack. All of our units have HDMI or SDI input. They come with Wi-Fi and Ethernet connectivity, as well as bonded cellular connectivity built in. And what we do is we take and we combine multiple cellular connections, AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, T-Mobile, again, Wi-Fi as well as Ethernet, and essentially make the biggest pipe you can have and bond those connections together and convert your video signal into IP packets and send those packets across the internet to a receiver. And in this case, in this diagram you see on the receiving end, we have a physical server that can receive the signal and decode it to NDI output for somebody who's running in a TriCaster environment, for example, a new tech environment that accepts the NDI protocol. We can also output SDI and finally RTMP. So if you're going to a CDN like Facebook or Akamai or YouTube, our devices can do that as well. And then finally, we have a cloud-based server, a video cloud-based server. So if you don't have a need for an SDI output into a control room, you can just go and send your output to a cloud server to go to like Facebook or YouTube or what have you. So that's the basics of a cellular bonded workflow. The LiveU portfolio, we have a lot of products that are set up in these 4 different categories. The first is the portable products like the 300, the 600 I showed you in that picture briefly. Those are the field units, the encoders. We have software solutions that are made for your cell phone, for your laptop. We even have decoders like the servers, a 2K server, a 4K server, and then vehicle and fixed solutions that can be rack mounted into any type of a vehicle, a control room like you have here at the station, etc. Everything that we have is controlled by LiveU Central, which is a cloud IP-based online system, so you can control these units and set up your system, configure it remotely anywhere in the world off of a laptop, an iPad, or even your cell phone. Our systems, there's 2 types of systems that we have. H.264 devices, these are the ones on the right-hand side of your screen here, and on the left-hand side of your screen, or rather your right, my left, are the H.265 devices. So we have 2 different types. H.264 is the older codec, as you may be aware of, and H.265, which is HEVC, is the newer codec. And the LU300 and the LU600 are HEVC units. And the difference between the different models is really the number of modems, the bonded cellular modems that we have inside the unit. So for example, you'll see some of our units have no modems. They don't come with modems at BYOM. They bring your own modem. Some of the units have 3 or 4 modems, and our highest end unit, the LU600 HEVC unit, has 7 built-in modems that are dual SIM modems. And what that means is they're able to work both in the United States and anywhere in the world up to 185 different countries, because the have an A side is for domestic use and the B side is for use internationally. So what is HEVC? HEVC is high efficiency video codec. You're all engineers pretty much, so I'm sure you know what HEVC is. But it really allows for transmission of high quality video images using about half the bandwidth compared to H.264. It's a newer codec, so you can really, in very low bandwidth areas where you're getting very low connectivity, 1 to 2 megs, you're still able to stream at a high bitrate, 1080 resolution. Whereas with H.264, you're not able to stream at that low bit rate. And if you look conversely, or in addition, if you look at how things have progressed over time, in 1994 there was MPEG-2, where you were streaming at bit rates of about 8 megs or so. In 2003, we introduced H.264, and that streamed at around 4, a little bit higher. And now you're able to stream with H.265 at around 3 megs and get the same quality as what you were streaming at 8 megs years ago. So it's an amazing technology. And again, it's all about transmitting high quality video at much less bit rates, lower bit rates, and it consumes a lot less cellular data. So that's a little bit about the technology, a little bit about LiveU, a little bit about the background of our company. So let's talk about what we call remote at-home production, or AKA live remote production, or REMI, remote integration production, which I'm glad to hear that you're going to be doing another session with the school, because it's really interesting. And it's probably the biggest area of growth for our company. So who uses wireless at-home production today? One of the biggest users of wireless at home is news. This is when the Hawaiian volcano was going off. And this, I think, was the Today Show. They're doing this live shot. They're sending it back to New York. They're sending the feedback using our LU600 backpack. And again, it's bonded cellular connection, sending the signal back to a server that's sitting in New York, and the New York control room is taking that signal out into their router, and they're editing that or sending it out directly to air. Extreme Production is another huge user of wireless at-home productions, where they're sending multiple cameras out to cover remote productions where there's absolutely no internet anywhere in a landscape where you're out in the middle of the woods or out in the middle of a field. Sports are another big user of at-home production environment. Golf, athletics, any type of sporting activity where you used to have to run miles and miles of cables or pull cables. It's a huge market for us for this at-home production environment. Special events, where you used to have to bring out all this type of equipment and set it all up to do this type of a special event. This is a huge market for us for at-home production, as well as education. The number one use in education is athletics. The second use in education is broadcast journalism programs. They're teaching their kids the same technology and the same workflow that they're using at NBC and Fox and CBS in the real world, right? And so education uses at-home production all the time. And then finally, live event production is probably one of the other biggest avenues for an at-home or REMI production workflow. So the old way, you're probably all familiar with this or have seen something like this somewhere along the way in your careers. It's, pack a fly kit, ship it to your destination, send in a crew or hire locally, you have shipping costs, you have travel costs, you have Ethernet costs, or you have to run the cables, and you have to do all of those things. You have to think about return shipping, you have potential damage to gear, right? You have all of these things to consider, and that's what productions used to look like. And in some cases, people still do this, right? But this is how the at-home production kind of came along, because everybody's invested. If you look at this facility here, you have a beautiful control room, you have beautiful facilities that you've already invested in that infrastructure, right? So instead of packing it up and sending it around, why not utilize what you already have in existence? And as you mentioned during your opening, that's what the networks did years ago, and that's how this kind of all started. And it took a while to get going, but now it's really hit its floor, if you will. The wireless at-home production workflow for us it's a completely wireless synchronization of multiple LiveU camera sources, and we use what's called LiveU precision timing, which I'll cover more about that in just a second. It allows you to connect anywhere with no need for a LAN or high-speed connection on site, right? It also allows you to go live anywhere, regardless of what the infrastructure is on site. You don't have to worry about camera runs, and you can take advantage of your existing in-house control room, save money on travel costs and things of that nature. It's also extremely low delay, better than satellite. We're able to get down to, with our units, down to 0.6 second delay, so it's sub-second delay now. And you can cover more events and produce more frequent live streams because, again, you have the existing infrastructure, the personnel here, and then finally, simplified logistics and planning. So the way that this looks, if you take a look at the diagram here, is we're going to use an example, in this case, of a golf outing. What we do is we'll send out camera people, as many as you want to for an event. In this case, it's 4 cameras. And it's really just, you're sending out the camera people with these backpacks. It could be any one of the units. It could be this one, the 300. In this case, they're using the LU600. And what we're using in the field is what we call LiveU wireless precision timing. And what that is it makes us or allows us to connect each one of these field units in the location or at the event. We are able to set the delay to each unit's at the same synchronization, if you will. So it's actually allowing the measurement of the end-to-end delay to be exactly the same across all 4 of the units, or 5 units, or 2 units, or 6, or 8, whatever you're using. So in this case, all of these could be set to 0.6 or 1 second delay, and when they're transmitting back to the server, which resides at your control room, they all come back and they're all arriving at the server in sync. So when they hit your server, they're all in sync, so then you can switch them live, just like you're doing a live shot if you were there with a SAT truck or what have you. So that's what's called the LiveU wireless precision timing, the ability to set the delay to the exact second on each one of the units. So some examples of the wireless at-home production. Oh, before I go any further, sorry, any questions so far? If you do, by the way, just raise your hand and I'll answer.
George, on that timing
Yeah.
delay between that, if I do a battery change or power the camera down, does it keep that delay built in there, or do I have to retime?
Could you repeat the question, George, for the people on the webcast?
Yes, I will. So the question is during the timing delay, if you power the camera down or have to change a battery, will it keep the delay setting? The answer is yes, it does. The delay setting is set through our LiveU central interface, and so that has nothing to do with the battery and how the battery is configured if it turns off or has to get a power change or what have you. So that's all done through the separate online interface called LiveU Central. Yeah, so it keeps it in sync. So a couple of examples that have happened just in the last few months with us that I wanted to share with you tonight that are pretty interesting examples. One is with the Western Amateur Open. This is one of our customers out of Florida, Lowell Thaler, and if you Google him, he's done some amazing work. But he uses, in this case, the Western Amateur Open is a golf classic that had never been live streamed or even broadcast anywhere. And the PGA wanted to start enhancing their, I guess, lower level events is what we will call them. You know, they do all the big events all over the place, but they hadn't done this Western Amateur in its ever before. And they wanted to do some exposure and do a live stream of it. So Lowell Thaler did this event using the at-home production methodology, and he used 4 LU600s, 2 LU500s with 2 quad servers. And what he did was he sent out these camera crews to Illinois, which is where the event took place. And his camera crews were in Illinois, and his office and his house is in Miami, Florida. So this is his production environment where he has his crew here set up with his NewTek TriCaster. His TD was here, and everybody's here in his garage. He has a little green screen background where the folks are doing the the voiceover and talking and doing the play-by-play analysis and everything else. So on the course, they're actually shooting everything. It's all being brought back synchronous, in sync back to the servers. They're cutting in the putts and the sound effects and everything else, and it's all being done again live from his little studio back in Miami, Florida. So all that miles and miles away, different state, different time zones, and again, just works seamlessly using the LiveU products and the synchronous, maintaining the sync across the different units, right? Yes, go ahead.
Did they have any announcers on the course, or are they all back in Miami?
Yeah, in this one particular instance, they were all in Miami doing the live play-by-play. He did the Honda Classic. He's done a couple others where he had announcers back in Miami and on the course. So he's done both. But in this particular case, they were both back in Miami. So, yes, sir.
What did he use for intercom to talk back to the camera people?
Yeah, so the question is, what do they do for intercom to talk back to the camera people? All of our units have built-in IFB. So they use IFB that talks back from the control room right into the camera person's ear headset or into the talent's headset. And the LU600 units, which they were using for this particular case, even have video return. So if some of them want to have video where they see teleprompter or program return, they can even send that back for talent. So, yes, sir.
I may have missed this, but how many streams, separate streams, are going out from the venue back to where it's being switched?
In the Western Open case, he was sending, I think it was 4 total, or 4 or 5, 6. So he had 4 LU600s and 2 LU500s, so 6 total.
So they're not being aggregated by some centralized unit before it goes back to...
No, they're all independent streams. Okay. So there's 6 camera people on different parts of the course. Maybe somebody's on hole 1, hole 4, hole 18. Somebody's getting crowd shots, and they're all coming back, and he's switching them live, cutting them live on the switcher.
Any idea what kind of bandwidth is necessary at the receiving end?
Yes, it's 10 megs up and 10 down. That's it. Yeah, that's what's needed on the server side. So another one, which is really, oh yes, I'm sorry. Yep.
Sort of piggyback on what Steve said. I mean, there's a finite number of available channels at any location,
Mhm.
right? I mean, there's a limited number of channels, right? If you're going cellular, back, how do you keep from, what's your capacity there? Because once you're outside of your production venue, the infrastructure is out of your control. What are the limitations there, and how do you guarantee quality of service for independent video streams that will be coming back?
Yeah, so if I understand your question, you're asking about guaranteeing quality of service, right, when we're at a remote site.
Well, and capacity.
And capacity. So, if we go to a place where there's no cellular service, we don't create cellular service. So then the units wouldn't work, right? So if you're at Running Man or something like that, then you might be in a place or in the middle of the desert where there's no cellular, then it wouldn't work. But in most locations, all of our units have multiple modems. Like the LU600, for example, has 7 modems, right? So it has 2 of AT&T, 2 T-Mobile, Sprint, Verizon, all built in. And what we're doing is we're going out to all the different towers that are those carriers, right? And we're aggregating all of those together. Plus, in some cases, the person might be using Ethernet. They also might be using Wi-Fi. They might have a MiFi puck with them, for example. So what we're doing is we're taking the available bandwidth that's there in that area, that the golf course, for example, at the Western Open, and we're using that available bandwidth that's available, to us over the air. If there's a large crowd, let's say the Super Bowl or something like that, in those circumstances, we may bring in a private Wi-Fi for our users, right? In certain circumstances like that. And we even have a technology called a LiveU extender, which is a device that connects to this via Ethernet or Ubiquiti wirelessly. That is a unit that adds 6 additional modems capacity to this. It's a tripod mounted unit. It also can be a truck mounted unit. And it also has ultra high frequency antennas that go beyond the first cell tower that can get to like the next available cell tower. So when you use a cell phone, it only has so much power, right? I have Verizon. I can reach the first closest Verizon tower to this location right here, and that's how I make my phone call, right? If I'm standing in here and you have a big event and there's 100,000 people here and they all have Verizon or have to, I might not get a shot out on my Verizon modem, right? But by having an extender, I'm able to get beyond this crowd because it can go further than what everybody else's cell phone can. So that's how we get around some of those issues that you just spoke of. That's how we can get a guarantee of QoS and that type of thing.
In a large event, a disaster, something like that.
Yeah, so we, like, for example, when we had the hurricanes, the storms, the fires in California recently, all the major networks, CNN, CBS, Fox, ABC, they use our technology. They use our LU600, typically, the HEVC unit. And what they're using is they'll use that unit, and then some of them may use the extender as well. And the advantage of those things, those units, is the HEVC, the ability to transmit in a very low bandwidth scenario, because towers in those cases sometimes are damaged beyond repair, and you may have very little connectivity. You may have a unit like an LU600 with 7 modems, but maybe only 1 is connecting, or 2 because 3 or 4 towers are down and you're only relying on AT&T. So our unit and the software that it uses has the ability to recognize what's available out there, take it and bond across all of those to give you the best pipe that it can. And because we use, again, the HEVC technology, right, the codec internally, we can transmit at very, very low bandwidth and very low.
Is that dynamic as your available bandwidth would change and the bonding would change?
Yeah, the question is it dynamic? It is. It's something, we didn't talk about it tonight, but it's something we call LRT, LiveU Reliable Transport. So it's with every unit that we have. It's our secret sauce, if you will, in the unit, which allows you to not only do the bonding, but it's almost like surfing a wave. We're able to, within the unit itself, all automated. You don't have to manually do anything. It essentially monitors what's happening with the available network bandwidth. So let's say you're doing a shot and you're driving, a driving shot, right? You're going to drive in and out of cell tower range, and so you might be in an area where Verizon and AT&T are great, and all of a sudden AT&T drops out, Verizon's going, AT&T comes back, or Sprint drops out. our unit will always stream continually in sync with audio, won't drop the signal or won't degrade the signal because it's using this LRT with packet ordering, forward error correction, a few other technical things we didn't get into, but all of that happens dynamically, kind of, again, like riding a wave because of this technology called LRT. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Will the extender work with everything you have or just the 200 and up?
The 200 and up. It doesn't work with the LiveU Solo, which is our online product.
Is there any way to get more of a push out of that?
Out of what?
The solos. Is there any way to amplify or push them any farther?
The only way that you can increase the capacity of the Solo is you can add to it. Again, the Solo is our online product, which is not used in an at-home production environment because it doesn't have the ability to go to a server and what have you. It only goes to an online output to a CDN. The only way to beef up or amplify that is to add connectivity to it by adding multiple modems, adding the Ethernet, adding the Wi-Fi. Yep. All right, so I'll continue on with my examples. New England Sports Network, NESN. This was our actual first, one of our first users of the at-home production environment. They came to us a few years back, and they were doing spring training and spending a lot of money on satellite trucks down in Florida for spring training baseball. I'm not a big baseball guy, but that's what they were using. So this is their control room up in Boston, Massachusetts. And what they ended up using was 5 LiveU LU500s, 5 extenders, the thing I just talked about a minute ago, and 2 LU2000 quad servers, so 4 output servers, so a total of 8 channels. And before they did LiveU and this at-home production workflow, this is essentially what it looked like for spring training for NESN. They had 10 people go down for it, plus 5 camera ops, plus an engineer for a SAT truck. They were spending money on lodging and meals and travel, right? $2,500 to $3,500 per day just for the SAT truck rental, $500 to $1,000 for a 2-3 hour broadcast that they did for the spring training event. Plus they were doing fax out times, the melts, and that added additional costs. So it was quite a bit of money. And now what they did with LiveU, and this is what, by the way, this is what an extender looks like on a tripod. That's a tripod mount extender right there. They have 5 camera operators, 1 engineer, and 1 producer. That's it. They send just the units down, and then they send the feed back to that control room that you saw where all the people are, and the TD's back there, and the director and producer, everybody's back there, CG operator, and they save a ton of money. They didn't give us the specific details of the savings, but it was 75% cost reduction. Mostly, I mean, not all of it, but the biggest savings was on the on-site satellite truck, obviously. Then travel was the next one, sat time and data savings as well. Huge savings by doing it this way. Another one that was really big for us this last year is we did the Cape Epic bike race, a 408-mile bike race. I myself would not do a 408-mile bike race, but I don't have the physique for it. But they used 5 LU600s, a 500, 1 of our LU200s, 2 of our smart apps, which are the apps for our cell phones. You can use them on iPhones or Androids. And they used 2 quad servers to cover this, and this was done in Africa. And they had one of those, the control room was located about 30 miles off the course itself, which was, again, a 408-mile course throughout Africa here. They had people on motorcycles, they had people on bikes with GoPro cameras connected to the units, they had people in helicopters with an LU600 and an extender and a helicopter, and they were sending the feedback to this control room, which was in one of those container crates, ship container crate. And that's how they did the same type of production with this, using that, at-home methodology. So, they didn't keep everything back in, the States per se, but they kept it, in a good bit away, if you will, from the production site. We did the ocean cleanup a few months back. You may have heard of this one. This was a company who had the idea to clean up all the garbage out in the Great Garbage Patch. They towed this unit out from San Francisco Bay. 4 LU600s, 2 500s, a couple of quad servers, and a drone were used in this one. And again, it was all about transmitting back to the servers, back to a control room with, in this case, it was a NewTek TriCaster environment. But this one, which was unique, was we only had one land camera. Everything else was all done on the bay, San Francisco Bay, which presented real challenges about bandwidth because when you're out on the bay, there's no cell towers really focused on the bay. It's not really a place where they're pointing the towers and the cell service, so it was a lower bandwidth situation and configuration. But everything was sent back to the control room and switched live and then streamed out to Facebook Live. There were over 800,000 viewers of this event where they were towing this thing out just to get it out to sea to the Golden Gate Bridge.
When you are doing the drones, is your unit actually in the drone, or are they sending it down and then your unit's on the ground sending it out?
Yeah, great question. So when we're using a drone, how is it connected? Is it on the drone or is it connected to the device? So typically it's connected right at the device, the controller device, taking the HDMI output of that device. Very rarely have we seen a unit go up on a drone. I think I've seen it once with a Solo. Somebody took a LiveU Solo and put it on one of the big DJI drones. I saw that very early when I first started at the company, but nobody usually does that. They'll usually take the SDI or HDMI output. It's almost always HDMI too, from the actual controller itself, or the output from like the iPad or some device where they're on the ground controlling it. We were just at the LA Fire Department and Police Department, which used the LiveU, and they use the drones a lot for their teams for fire and rescue and other things, and they take the output HDMI right into the unit, and the unit just transports it back. Good question. So from a getting started standpoint, it's pretty straightforward. There's a basic or a starter wireless at-home production workflow. The lowest way you could do it is really just with two setups, right? You just have two cameras. You could have one camera operator if one was going to be a lockdown shot. And then you're sending it back to a server. In this case, it would be a dual channel server. And then you could have just one person doing the production, directing, TDing. They could really handle it all. And that's the most inexpensive way to get into this and the easiest way to get it done. But that's really what we call the starter wireless at-home production workflow. And then from an advanced standpoint, you could, do 4 cameras with 4 operators, quad server, and you could even do more than this. I mean, we've had people do many more cameras than just 4, right? But that's more of an advanced look. But this would be where you're bringing a full team out, right? Sending 4 camera ops out to the field using IFB. But again, your control room is here, like the master control that you have here. The control room, the studio, all those personnel stay here. They don't go on the road. You're saving all that money and cost and time, et cetera, that you have from traveling to the destination or location.
I'm sorry, when you were talking earlier about the bandwidth up and down,
Yep.
Does that change based on the number of streams coming in, or is it 10 meg up and down for 16 streams, 20, or?
Yeah, no, it does. It goes up exponentially, right? So it does go up. Like if you have 20 streams or 20 units coming in, you're going to need more headroom, right? So for the example I was giving, the 10 up and 10 down, that was for the example that we were just talking about. But so for a basic starter kit, right, you would use 10 up and 10 down. But yeah, if you're going to have 20 units out in the field, you're going to need more bandwidth on the server side. Absolutely.
Does it have to be symmetrical up and down?
No, I don't believe so. It doesn't have to be symmetrical. But I will have to check on that one because that one just went a little bit above my head technically. So
All right.
I'll get back to you on that, though. That's a good question. So, again, just to summarize the wireless at-home production, or REMI, it's completely wireless synchronization of multiple camera sources with the precision timing. And again, that's taking these units, syncing them together at the same delay setting. And the delay setting is what does the sync, sending it back to the server, right? And then you don't have to worry about the connectivity on site. You can go live from anywhere regardless of the infrastructure. And that was huge. Just to digress for 1 second, I went to an event at a hotel in Washington, D.C., and for the internet drop there, they wanted to charge me $15,000 just for one single Ethernet drop. I'm sure you all have your own stories of woe with that, but that was just one single drop, right, for the infrastructure for for internet. But you don't have to run the cables, and especially if you think of a sporting event or a golf event, right? Cellular Media's example, when they try and pull cable runs for some of the golf events, they're pulling miles of cables for some of these. Even though, you know, some of the cameras are remote cameras still, they're still pulling, you know, miles and miles of cables, which you don't have to do with these at-home production workflows. And then the biggest thing is really all of the existing money that you've spent in the facility like this, or your control room, is already hardcore money that you've spent, put into the facility. You already have the personnel and the staffing for that facility in those positions. They don't have to travel. That's where the biggest cost saving is coming from, right? You're cutting out the need for the SAT trucks. You're cutting out the need for all of that travel and those costs associated with it. So it simplifies the logistics and planning. The quality of the event is able to be maintained the same quality that you would get if you did send a SAT truck on the road and if you did send the same people on the road. So that really concludes what I wanted to show tonight and talk about tonight with the at-home production workflow, and you know, just give you that introduction and kind of cover what we're doing with it and how we're using it in our world with LiveU. So with that, I'll open it up for questions for anybody and answer anything that I can. Yes?
If you have any kind of robotic camera or even PTZ, does it
Yep.
support that bi-directional to control that remotely?
The PTZ cameras we do not control bi-directional, but we do support 5 of the Panasonic streaming cameras. The AG, I don't remember the exact models. Tom can get that for you. I can also get that for you. But the streaming cameras that Panasonic has, we support. We have a plug-in for them, an SDK that we have, or a plug-in that has the ability to control white balance, iris, zoom, and 2 other features of those cameras. But PTZ is not currently, but those other functions of those specific Panasonic cameras we can today. Some other questions, anybody? Yes, sir.
Yeah, does anybody ever do a hybrid, like where they might have 2 or 3 cameras feeding 1 unit, like just switching it, and then so you could have more than just the 4?
Yeah, so the question is about, does anybody do a hybrid approach where you can have 2 or 3 units feeding just 1 unit? So our units can do dual function, if you will, so they can connect to a camera as an output, which is what we were talking about today in this at-home production model, or they can connect to a switcher as an output, right, and be used as transport. So if you were going to do a multicam shoot, like you just described, 2 or 3 or 4 cameras, that's how you would do it in that case. You would take 2 or 3 cameras and do a multicam shoot, and you would send that into a switcher, a Blackmagic ATEM maybe, or a NewTek Mini, TriCaster Mini, or whatever, and then you would take the SDI output or HDMI output into the LiveU unit, and then that would then stream to your destination. And yes, people do that as well. Yes?
To answer a little bit of what you did, we were in San Francisco, they wanted $8,000 for internet for 2 hours at the convention center. We ran 4 cameras into a Sony switcher. You couldn't take it into that, but we took it into a computer and added graphics to Wirecast. We took the output of that and put it into that. The people that paid for the internet kept going down that box. And we actually did it with a Solo, went flawlessly.
That's a great story.
Yeah, so we saved the client $8,000. They gave us quite a nice tip for it, and the internet kept going down on everybody. They were down to less than a meg.
Yeah, and we didn't even cover this in the discussion, but two other things I guess it's worth noting. All of our systems now, both the Solo on the online side and on the broadcast side, the 300, the 200, the 600, the ones we're talking with at home, all now have real-time online graphics capabilities. So right in the cloud, you can do online graphics, add lower thirds, do bugs and logos and things like that, all right from within the software interface without having to use Wirecast or having to use other CG. Now, that is not meant to say that you should replace a Chiron or a Ross. It doesn't do that by any means. But if you're just simply looking to add a lower third and some logos and simple graphics and things like that, it's fantastic. and easy to use and built right in. So you don't have to go outside to another application and learn something and tie it into your production. And then the other point is that the unit, the LU300 and the 600 that we were talking about briefly today, those support what's called data bridge. So you have the ability on the 600, you can flip between streaming mode or data bridge mode. So you can actually make it into an Uber hotspot where it takes all the 7 modems instead of streaming now, right? Instead of being a streaming device, it can flip itself into a data bridge mode where you can now VPN back into your head end, or you know, for sending files back and forth, FTPing or VPNing in, and having an internet connection in the middle of nowhere, right, if you need it for your workflow. So a lot of people want that remotely. And again, where somebody's charging you for an internet drop, astronomical numbers, you can change your unit into a hotspot. Yes, sir?
That raises an interesting question. Any opportunity to record locally? To get a data file from each one of these units?
Yeah, so we don't record locally to the device itself. We actually do what's called store and forward. So we'll take and we record temporarily to this as it streams back to our physical server. The server then stores it there. And we actually can do that on the physical server itself or on our cloud server.
But if we lost the connectivity back and couldn't record it on this?
It would not record it on that, no. And most people will either record it on the drive on the actual camera itself, or it records up to the device itself. Any other questions? Well, I want to thank everybody again for coming, and I appreciate the questions that you did ask, and I hope you got something out of tonight's presentation. So, thank you.
All right, well, thank you, George. That was really interesting. Have a safe drive back to Pittsburgh. I know you're just going to cut and run. If anybody comes up with any other questions, Tom Aquilone back there from Laro there, we're actually using this device, the 300, to stream this tonight. So if anybody has any questions after George leaves, Tom was more than happy to answer them. So thank you again. Thank you. Appreciate it. So now we're going to invite Andy Cummis up here, who's the CTO of WLVT. Again, I'd like to thank you for hosting us tonight. It's wonderful. This has been, like I said, it's a great turnout. Great to see so many new faces. And I was asked to make one additional comment about the student job fair that we're doing. And I didn't realize this. I just found this out. Tom, exactly what is that called? The National...
Mark Mullen from Millersville University wanted to remind us, and I need you to repeat it for them so they can hear it.
Okay.
Trying to get the chat up to where he said it.
Yeah, we're trying to have this at Villanova University, which I didn't. I knew that's where we were trying to do it, but I didn't know why. Apparently, there is a National Broadcasting Society for which I guess is a university thing. This is coming from Mark Mullen, who's the our representative for our student chapter at Millersville University, and so that's where the it's a national convention, so it should be very well attended. So that's going to be a good draw for all of our future employers. So anyway, I'm going to turn it over to Andy Cummis, as I said, old friend of mine. I won't tell the story of when we met. But
It's way too long ago.
yep.
All right. We can do
Just
this.
say that our daughters are almost the same age. And at the time, there was only one of them.
That sounded really weird. No idea where he was going with that.
I think she was 8 months pregnant when we met.
Probably. All right. Well, hopefully I put the microphone on right. Hey, thanks for coming to WLVT. Been here just about a year. Officially as CTO since March. There's been a ton of changes since I got here. Unfortunately, I got here because Dave Guerrero died very suddenly, I guess right around Thanksgiving a year ago. And he had made all the plans to do this channel share and had ordered the ATEM encoders, and then he died. And I had to come in and figure it all out, sort of reverse engineer what he was thinking without too much documentation. Fortunately, we actually have 2 channel share partners, WFMZ and WBPH, and they've been totally amazing partners. And so they were really helpful getting everything done. But the first thing that happened when I walked in the door, they had just made a deal to pick up the WYBE sub-channels. WYBE sold out in the Spectrum auction. But they were carrying PBS World and Megahertz World. And I had to quickly figure out a way to get the signals from here to BPH to get them up into their transmitter. So we ended up using the ATEM that we were getting anyway in a whole new, different way, and then getting those on kind of just over the open internet. And amazingly, that actually worked for quite a few months until we launched the whole channel share. So the channel share is a pretty incredible thing. We're using TEM encoders here to send our 5 channels. So we have the main channel PBS39, which is an HD channel, and then we have 4 SD channels now. Create France 24, and the 2 YBE channels, now PPT channels, PBS World and Megahertz. So they're all coming out of here in 2 separate feeds, one ASI and one IP, both out of different ATEMs, and they go up to FMZ, where they get packaged with all the other channels through a whole harmonic system that I think was pretty much engineered for us, because we started with less channels, and then all of a sudden we had more, so they had to re-engineer the whole thing at the last minute. And Heartland was involved, and was all pretty crazy, but eventually the FMZ guys were fantastic and worked with Heartland to get it all on the air, and we were able to turn our transmitter off. So it's been pretty amazing. The really hard part of this whole new world is that we kind of have no way to monitor our own signals here, because we're sending 2 different streams out of the building, and we can only see it when it comes back around, either through cable or over the air. So it's like yesterday we had a problem where we had no audio, but in the house, as far as we could monitor, we had audio, and it wasn't till like viewers started calling saying there's no audio on your main channel that we knew that we didn't have it, and then we have to start making calls. We don't really have any test equipment that monitors streams, which obviously we're going to need to get. But it's just a lot more difficult. I was explaining to the boss this morning, you know, back in the analog days, it was really nice. One box did one thing, and you knew what the wires were, and you could see it and hear it and touch it and feel it. And now everything's a computer, and it's all software. And if it doesn't work, and you're really just stuck calling the manufacturer, and they team viewer in, and hopefully they can help you figure something out. Setting changed, who knows? So yesterday was really not fun here. Really glad this meeting is tonight and not last night. What else I can tell you? Besides all the transmission changes, we've also just done a huge amount of changes in how we do shows here. I brought in, one of the things I saw really quickly was they were doing uplinks occasionally with Charlie Dent and Pat Toomey, and they always went very badly. Somehow nothing was ever working right, or they had trouble with the dish, or the weather was bad. You know, it was just all the old satellite uplink problems. And I said, did you guys ever hear about LTN? It's this really nice, you know, sort of video over the internet service, works great. So I brought LTN in, and I'll show you on our little tour later, but I got new lights, I got a little PTZ camera, did a live stream switcher that we use just strictly to do the keying and everything for the uplinks, which are now LTNs. And we have Charlie Dent here all the time for CNN since he's no longer in Congress. He has a CNN deal. And it's been great. It works every time. It's really simple. We used to have 3 people. Now we can have 1 person come in, and the master control person can help make the phone calls, and that's it. So that's actually been a huge difference here, and we make money every time we do it. So Now it's like just a regular thing. Charlie can come in, they know it's going to work every time. And over the holidays, he was here like 2 or 3 times, a couple of times, so it's been great. That's made a huge difference just in how they operate for outside stuff. When I got here, they had old Thompson cameras, really, really old Thompson cameras. None of them matched. Everything was a different color. Just looked terrible. There was no way to match them. And so we brought in Panasonic studio cameras and some Panasonic PTZs. They've all been great. They look amazing. They're much easier to match. And we take the PTZs out in the field. I had originally thought we were going to do a TriCaster to go out in the field, and we actually had a huge number of problems with the TC1. I guess it's just about a year ago. They were, I think, having issues when they did the NDI upgrade. Everything was sparkly with the video inputs. They wouldn't admit that there was a problem. Kind of made us crazy for like 3 months trying to troubleshoot it. So we finally just sent it back, did a whole Blackmagic field kit. Been fantastic. So we got the broadcast panel, control panel's been really nice. Got a router, I designed the whole thing, built it really quick, and we use it all the time. We're doing tons of outside production, some live. Sorry, we're using DeGeros, not LiveU's, but they work really well. And that's been great to have. We bought one. We've been renting extras when we need them, like election night. We had reporters all over, so I rented a whole bunch of them. But it all worked really well. And what else? We got a whole new KVM system because ours was failing.
Have you had much problem with the Blackmagic equipment? We have had 70% failure rate.
Really? No, I've had no problems, actually. And in my other life, I'm actually an integrator, so I put in a lot of Blackmagic stuff. I've on occasion had like something fail pretty quickly, mostly routers, where they just failed or we had bad solder joints. And they were pretty good. Once you got someone on the phone, they were pretty good about sending a new one pretty quickly.
The biggest problem we would have, like, we would use their capture card. In the middle of a live broadcast, it would say, you need to update your capture card.
Oh my goodness, I have never seen that, but I'm very sorry. Yeah, they do seem to like to have updates a lot.
We went to OGS, which is a driverless format,
Yeah.
and we found no issues.
Generally, the AJAs are more stable and more expensive. So you get what you pay for, I guess. Well, so we replaced our KVM. At least you guys know what a KVM is. I was telling our board like all the things we bought in the last year, and no one knew what a KVM was. Well, we did IHSE. It's been fantastic. Went in really easy. Just been great. A huge difference because the one they had, it must have been like 20 years old, and it was just failing. You know, we were down to like the bare minimum just to keep the station on the air, trying to just have enough ports to keep going. I actually have notes, so I can see what else I did. Let's see.
Are you doing a lot more production now?
We're doing tons of production. Yeah, oh, and the main thing is we got a whole new set. And as part of that, for those of you who were here in the past, I actually had them move the set to the other end of the studio. So now when you walk in from here, which is, you know, the public entrance, you don't walk into the back of the set. Seemed to make sense to me. So that's been really nice. And the new set is very streamlined. Our old set was really busy. I don't know, felt like a 1980s PBS set to me. Lots of colors, lots of lines, a lot of different kinds of materials. And this is very streamlined, very simple, lots of colored lighting that we can change the colors. So everything's DMX controlled. And it just looks amazing, the whole different look. They wanted to do live election coverage. I said, gotta have a new set if we're gonna do that sort of thing now. I don't know if you guys know, but we have this whole new reporter corps thing where they got 10 reporters, one in each county that we cover. So we do a kind of packaged news show every night. So that's a ton of work. We went from when I started here, I think we had 1.5 editors, and now we have 5 or 6 full-time people, and it's still not enough. We're doing a Spanish weekly show. We're doing a radio show that's also television. Yes.
Based on your stories, it's like you're in reactive mode. When you first came in, everything was.
So much.
So it's 2019. What do you envision going forward as far as planning on expansion, new features, or you're just going to be reactive?
New production switcher and new character generators on my list for next budget year, which would be next summer. Actually, the next thing we're doing, we're still in this budget year, is we're getting a whole new Wheatstone audio system. So that's actually in a couple of weeks, assuming it.
So are you
send
looking
it.
at the new switcher of doing 4K HDR stuff, or you
No.
can be basic?
Yeah, I don't think we'll be 4K anytime soon, but at least our pictures look a lot better, and things are hopefully not failing. You know, our stuff's really pretty old. Almost everything's at least 8 years old because they bought it when they moved in here. And at the time, a lot of it might have been used. I don't know how old it is. Like the KVM, I hear, was really, really old. And the cameras, I think, came from the other building. So the set was 8 years old, but it felt a lot older than that, if you've ever seen it on TV. So the new one you'll see, it has a really nice new feel. At some point, I'd love to get a monitor wall instead of the sort of still picture we have there, but at least you can change the colors and it looks nice. So we couldn't afford the monitor wall right now, but it was definitely a step up. Yeah, our character generator, I think, is probably on its last legs. We also got a clip player because their clip player had died a year earlier, and they were playing clips off the Avid. So they would have to not be editing in order to play clips. And we got one Playbox Airbox. Right now, it mostly plays to the outside sign, which is kind of a funny use of it. But we actually use it to play the news. We do a lot of short turnaround stuff where we'll shoot, edit, package, and play it out. Even though we're on JMC for the main channel, for the master control, we still do a lot of live things and short turnaround things where we have to play it from here because it's just not enough time to get it to Syracuse. So we're using the Playbox for that. It's been terrific. And when we had to do those funny little 1-minute commercials about setting your remote because we were moving from one place to another, we used the Playbox for that. So every night at 9 o'clock or whatever we had it scheduled, it would play our little remote guy. It was hysterical. That little animation thing that you play. So we've just had a lot of really interesting uses for the Playbox. When we were doing Pledge recently, we had to cover the generic banner with our phone number, so we used it for that. It's just really been a lifesaver because right when I started, their entire automation system failed. So that was pretty exciting. And they hadn't paid the service, so they didn't want to pay the $25,000 to pay the service to see if they could get it fixed at that point. So I went and borrowed a Playbox and got them back on the air, and then we bought one. But at the same time, we were moving to JMC. So that's been okay. But when they made that plan, we were going to be very automated. And then all of a sudden, they decided to get into all this new live production. So it's interesting. Because, JMC's not set up for short turnaround stuff or for us to do live stuff all the time. They don't like it if we take control of the network. They want us to send the live feed through them and back down. That hasn't worked all the time, worked most of the time. But we do have some bandwidth issues with that sometimes where things will start sparkling.
What's the connectivity between here and Syracuse?
It's, I think it's a 50 megabit line. But, there's quite a few feeds on there. They're sending 2 channels. And we have the studio line so we can send them stuff. So like if we're sending a live show and it's going up and it's coming back and they're sending create and there's a small line going back with our return, that's a lot of video. So we notice when we're doing live stuff that we're definitely having little bandwidth issues. Yeah, it's been pretty good. And at least the master control guys aren't killing themselves trying to gather all the shows, which used to be a lot of work. So we do the traffic, but they gather the shows, which is nice. I'm trying to think. We're doing so many shows, it's really hard to keep track of. They're doing this show, I think it's getting a new name, but it was Reporters Roundtable, where they had a lot of they had kids from school papers of different colleges in the area talking about whatever was going on that week. So that was pretty good. We're doing You Bet Your Garden. You guys know? Yep. So Mike's here every week doing that. So that's radio and TV. You know, he wanted to do it. I'm happy to give him an earpiece, but he likes the old school. I got him the big mic. Yeah, and that was crazy because I think we had, a week's notice on that one or something. It was like, quick, you're doing radio. Like, I don't have those kind of microphones. What does the guy want? So that's been an adventure. At least it's not dull. I don't like to be bored, so it's all right. Nope.
Andrea, when you repacked, what station was it that you ended up on?
Well, we're with WFMZ and WBPH altogether.
How many channels?
We have 3 HD and we're doing 7 SD. So it's, I guess we're the only 3 channel share in the country. Is that right?
And that's all in 1990?
Yeah. I know. Dennis knows all about it. It's crazy. But it looks amazing, and it's been good. And what's really crazy is the Gigacaster part of it. So we have a different line where we send ASI out of here, and it's being packaged with all the other channels with a Gigacaster to go to a lot of the cable companies, and that looks great. So I don't know how you do it.
Well, that allows us to each have our own 19.4, maintain our own previous 19.4 stream to the cable companies, so they don't use over the air as much. So we have better quality.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been good.
Do you have an idea what your viewership is over the air versus cable?
I think it's mostly cable. I don't know the numbers. Do you know any numbers for you guys?
The numbers that are thrown out in this area used to be 90% cable, 10% over there. Now some people are saying it's 80% cable, 20% over there. Yeah. We are seeing, as far as FMZ is concerned, we are seeing people cutting the cord.
Yeah.
We have regular emails. Hey, I dropped the cable. How do I get you?
Right.
Well, that's an interesting question because one of the things our company is based off is internet providing. And we were just out at Los Angeles talking to some of the radio stations, TV stations, and they're telling me within 5 years they don't expect to have any over-the-air broadcasting left out
That's
there.
interesting.
They expect, and not even cable, Verizon, they expect everything to be IP, over the internet, everything. They're starting to gear for it, they're building networks for it now.
Wow.
They want nothing to do with anything but content over the internet.
It's interesting. Because
I get calls daily to my office and say I want to set up an antenna because I
Yep.
can't get it.
Yeah, and then that's a big market right now is selling the antennas.
Yeah, one of the big problems has occurred is when this whole digital revolution began, it was initially thought that everything would be on UHF, there'd be no television transmission on channel 13 down. Europe was halfway there already.
Right.
And it turned out that it didn't come out that way. When the repacking process started and the different arrangements for spacing of channels and interference protection, some people had no choice to go. Philadelphia market, every single channel, once we're done with this next one, every single channel from channel 14 to 31 will have a television or more than one television, maybe 3 television stations plus. And that's it. There is no 6 megahertz available, no 1 megahertz available for anything because of that is now all the legacy stuff. There may be some things up high in the 37, the old 37 to 51 because there's 11 megahertz in the middle of that the cellular people, or I should say the wireless people, are not using.
Wow.
Because you have to guard between the receiver and the transmitter in the device. So there's 11 megahertz sitting there that's quiet, or will be quiet, and something may come out of that. But basically speaking, the only way you're going to get any more video presence over the air in Philadelphia market is to share with somebody else.
Yeah, there's not going to be new space. You know what? I bought a house not too far from here, and I got an antenna and stuck it up on my window, and the only thing I got was our channel share, but that's all I needed just to make sure we were on the air. So that was pretty good. But it looked good.
One other comment, so there, the antennas, I didn't finish the last part of the key of the statement. The antennas that were being remanufactured by people were only made for UHF. And even the ones that say they carry the high band, if you take a look at them, there's one reflector in the back. They take the screen part and make one section of it longer. It's not really an active element. And the folks that I know down at MSW, who do most of the field measurements all over the country for this, have been doing it for the last 20 years. Those antennas have a net gain of -3 dB on the lower channels. Most of those antennas you buy are at least -1 or -2 below a dipole. There's no real active antenna. So I went and I found an old pair of rabbit ears off a portable set, and I mounted on a nice wooden block at home, and put the wire on it, and hooked it up to some of my receivers, and did some measurements around the house. And I can get channel 9, and I'm 42 miles from here, if I get that antenna at least 10 feet above the ground and out on the patio. I cannot get it in the living room, no matter where I put it, onto a modern set. This is not a Series 1 decoder. This is a 5 or a 4 grade chipset, which is about as sensitive as they can get. And but the 9, I can't get channel 4 out of South Jersey at all, and I get channel 2 and channel 6 okay. The UHF stations, I'm 15 miles from Roxborough, and the UHF low power guys, the 15 kilowatt stations, which are filling in all these other little holes, I get all of them on the one ring of that combination antenna sitting on top of the TV just fine. But the VHF, somehow the industry, the television industry, has not done a good job of getting manufacturers to start making real antennas. And television stations won't touch it because Comcast and Verizon and Sprint are some of the biggest advertisers, and they don't want to lose it.
Oh.
So it's a chicken and egg situation.
Sure.
Big time.
One of the,
With all this going on, any impact of ATSC 3.0 on what you're doing or how you're doing it?
No, we actually started talking about that in the future, but it doesn't seem like it's quite there yet. So.
Well, it's not there, but
Yeah.
do you have to plan for it when you're sharing with everybody else? Or?
No, I think we're just waiting to see if it's something we can use when it becomes available. We're all talking about it.
Comment on that, I just got word from a secret source that North Hall and NAB, they're setting up 3 transmitters in ATSC 3.0 in that space.
Well,
And they're going to demonstrate how it's going to work. And that would, I consider that a miniature city. All the booths are going to be the skyscrapers. It's going to be an interesting project to get done.
Yeah.
And the other big thing is the OFDM system is designed to be ghosty and and trashy and still work. And the variable bandwidth features that are now in the new standard. The further away you go, if the signal's really weak, it'll give you a lower grade picture, but you will get one. It won't be this drop off to nothing. And that's been demonstrated already that that's going to be a good thing. There's been some tests done for that. So there will be a change in how over-air looks, but how long this is going to take, because there's no buyout of TV sets. They're going to start making dual-use sets, but people are replacing them much more often than the old days. TV sets didn't last very long. They were, I mean, when I was in college, worked part-time at a local appliance dealer who was also a teacher, and they expected, this is black and white, color had just started to cut. They expected 2 calls, if they knew in the business model, they would get 2 calls from every customer every year for repairs on a TV set. Nothing about that. That's all the better they were in 1962 and 1959. So now you can buy sets of 20 years old. So maybe people are going to be reluctant, but if the 3.0 really does something wowy, like the big screen turned out to be the factor, it's going to make a big difference. If it doesn't, so you're right. It's wait and see at the moment.
There's conflicting things. I mean, there's ATSC3 where you can do all this great stuff. There's all these channel shares, and it sort of defeats the whole purpose of it. You know, so both things are going on at the same time.
Right. Well, I think we're waiting to see if something's going to let us fit even more channels in than what we have now.
When you're talking about over there, one of the more interesting things that I'm seeing gain humongous things, of course, everybody knows about YouTube. YouTube went into content delivery. Now, I had to look the other day. For $40, you can get all your local stations. You punch in what market you have, whether it's New York, you get New York, Philadelphia, you get Philadelphia. So you get 3, 6, 10, 17, 29, 12, plus about 100 other channels, plus HBO, and I think it's Showtime for $35. And the quality is better than the Verizon.
Yeah. So they're
It's
trying
all
to.
coming through the internet, so it's really, really interesting to see how.
So they're going to compete with Hulu and those guys. Right?
Yeah, I think we're going to see
Sling.
a fight to the finish of cheaper. And I don't know if you guys know about the Google dish that they're experimenting with. It's a 12-inch dish that mounts on your ceiling, on your roof. Solar powered, so there's no electricity to it or anything. It will be able to bring down everything at 5 gig speeds from I guess it's doing it from the satellite or whatever, and feed to up to 30 devices in your house.
Wow.
And they're saying they'll be able to offer that with full internet, everything, within 3 to 5 years for $30.
Sounds amazing.
It'll be interesting to see how it's
I feel like maybe we've hijacked your presentation.
That's okay. It got really interesting.
Let me build on that a little bit. Being a cord cutter, I've tried the YouTube TV and not dissatisfied with it. What would a nonprofit, what would LVT's plan be as people start cutting the cord and they're not using Service Electric or RCN or anybody else and
Well, I
YouTube
think
TV and those?
I think that's what the antenna. You know,
don't
that's why
carry
That's why we like the over-the-air service, because people are getting the antennas. They're cheap and they work.
That seems to me to be a patch.
I don't know. I think that's what they're figuring for at least now.
Is it all about content? I mean, when you get.
Of course it is. Absolutely.
People watch your station because you got something is on there that you like. They don't know
Right.
how they get it.
Exactly.
So that doesn't really impact, the fact that they're gonna be another different kind of box to get it, it doesn't impact the fact that you have a unique service. And so does broadcaster B and C and so on.
It does impact me if I have to tell my wife she has to go flip a switch. to watch television.
Right.
This will make it not necessary. I'm gonna say, making it simpler to receive it will actually make it better for each individual provider because it's all about content. I've always said to people years ago,
Yep.
in New York City, if they took the VHS and the UHF and flipped them for a month later, everybody would have a good antenna. Because it's the content, silly, it's the content, it's all.
Always been the content, yes. But there's so many more places making content. So. Anybody else? Do a tour? Yep. Yeah.
So I'll just say thank you again. Because when we're done, we'll just disperse. So thanks a lot for coming. Next month, again, is at Newman University, which is out, it's right off the, it's off the Snoop, or off the Blue Route, right?
Yeah, Aspen, PA.
Yeah. So that information will be coming out soon, but basically taking what we learned about tonight with REMI, and we're going to see it in action. So, as I said, the students are going to be doing the, are going to be heading up the presentation along with Sean McDonald, who's their professor.
Are we having some tour now?
Yep.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Good night, Canada.